and I have just been informed that we are good to go into the next run now. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Buhbai and Amberloza Archie to introduce Pseudoregalia for us all. Let's go.
Hello, I'm Bubs, and this is Pseudoregalia. It's a 3D Metroidvania platformer released in 2023, and the category that I'm playing is all abilities, no out of bounds, full gold patch. If you know Metroidvanias, all abilities, no out of bounds is probably self-explanatory, but full gold patch is just the patch before the latest one. Changed a couple speed tech, so yeah. And I'm joined by Amber Loves Archie for commentary.
Hi, I'm just here hoping everyone has fun, you know. I'm just along for the ride.
Cool.
But
And I was just gonna say, and I know there's a bid war right now for Pants versus Pantless, so wanted to know if we are releasing the cheeks or not.
Incredible. I'm just checking right now if we have confirmation whether or not that is closed yet. But currently it does look like Pantsless is in the lead.
All right,
let's
great.
go.
We won't have to
Actually,
spend time putting on pants then.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think it does look like that. So we did have some last minute donations come in, $5 from Mathhacker and $5 from Amberlows Archie as well. So thank you both so much
Some
for
cultured
those.
individuals. But yeah, timer starts when I click start on the file now. So just for a countdown, 3, 2, 1, go. So we start in the dilapidated dungeon. I think the lore for this game is that you're Sybil and you wake up in a dream and you explore the dream, and that's pretty much about it.
A Sybil meaning you're like a combination of like 5 different animals.
Yeah.
And so this game's kind of like a mashup of like Super Mario 64 and like Hollow Knight, I would say. It's a very like movement-focused 3D platformer, but it definitely takes heavy inspiration from Hollow Knight. For example, we basically just picked up the nail. And there's not going to be a ton of combat in this game, but boy, do we love breaking open walls. Well,
Get
Bob
some
to
soul
say,
here.
yeah, we're getting some soul. We'll talk about it more later, but it's just Hollow Knight.
So we're just making our way here, and you'll notice coming up that we do a side flip, but in the forward direction. So kind of like SM64, if you just get into the skid state by holding back and then pressing forward just before you jump, you're able to side flip in any direction you want.
And here, this is a kind of secret breakable wall. We're going to break it while we walk past. We're going to come back here just in a little bit, but it's faster to start breaking it and kind of make it, like... it's faster to do that than stand still later, because we make a little bit of progress towards our objective here.
Just like Hollow Knight, very slow to start, but we are just about to get the movement ability that will make us do some pretty magical stuff. Slide.
Very magical, yeah.
So that was an ultra. There are ultras in this game, but they're actually called ultra hops. Basically, if you are in skid state and you do a side flip with speed, you are able to get a lot of speed and height, which we use everywhere in the run. And you're able to do it out of something called a glide hop, which is the main movement tech as well of this game. With slides, you can cancel them with jump halfway through, but if you do it instead with a jump, with a slide and a jump on the same frame, you get into a glide state, and if you jump out of that glide state in the end, you get a glide hop, and that retains the momentum of the slide in the air, essentially.
And for a route here, we went backwards through a dark room, basically. This is actually, when I was playing casually, the last area that I cleared, but we basically go into it backwards just to get a... It's just convenient for the routing.
So here we're getting Ascendant Light, which is our second power-up that we're getting. And what this does is light up the area and also give us a little bit of a knockback boost when we're hitting enemies, and this also counts as an enemy here.
Yeah. And we're just doing this here to build up a full meter of soul. We'll talk about it later, but we just want that meter to be full. Also, it's kind of funny that we go through the dark room backwards, and then we get the lantern basically immediately after. Kind of silly how it works out, but... Yeah, the intent is to find this area elsewhere, get the lantern, then leave through that direction, and go, oh wow, I've looped around back to the start of the game. That's crazy.
So here we also can do slide cancels on ledges, so it's relative to the position that you cancel the slide on as well, but you get speed depending on where you do that from. So for instance here I get a bunch of speed by sliding off a ledge, and that comes into handy pretty much everywhere in the run.
Yeah. This run's pretty interesting because there's like a lot of like vertical movement options, and it's like mixing together like when you want to optimize for like height bottlenecks and like just horizontal movement. There's a lot of that going on. And speaking of, actually, we have a first of all a little hazard respawn here. That's kind of a death warp. But after this, we have a really long climbing section, and whenever I tab into Bubs' stream, he's like always practicing this.
It's just a really enjoyable section.
Yeah.
Lots of tight movement.
I've tried doing some of this, and it is so much harder than it looks. Each of those, like... Actually, right here is a neat little skip. Normally you're supposed to, like, climb along some walls, but with enough momentum and a big old jump. Bang.
I'm glad I got that one. You usually go around the side, but that takes like 2-3 seconds, and use that to get wall run, which is what climb gem is. So now we have the ability to climb on walls. And you can do it, like... 6 times on the same wall before it resets and you have to land before you're able to wall run again, but we can manipulate that in some cool ways to get a lot of height quickly.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that tower area we just left holds the end of the game basically, but we need to grab, it's at 5 keys I think, it's just a few golden keys. This category gets all the abilities as well, but if you're just playing any percent, you just need to get there with 5 keys and then you're done basically. And then, way earlier in the run, we got 3 things of soul, like the 3 bars of soul on the left. It matters exactly right now with Indignation. Whenever you have full soul, you have larger range on your attacks and you do significantly more damage.
Oh. It'll also come in handy here. As with all block breaks. Usually that one takes 3, but now it just only takes 2, so...
And that is, like, it doesn't seem like much, but that'll come up, like, 10 more times, I feel like.
Most notably, just coming up to get the next power-up. It'll, like, cut the block break by about half, which is really convenient.
Yeah.
Now we have Sungreaves. This is pretty much our wall kick. It also can be used to maintain momentum in the air, which as you can imagine is very useful.
Yeah. It's a very weird feeling thing. It's both like a airborne momentum keeping tool, but also like a wall jump. It's very strange. Yeah, you can see him kicking through the air and keeping, like, basically resetting his falling speed and stuff. It's very handy.
And this is pretty much going to be the main use of movement to cross pretty much flat terrain. Just a glide hop into kicks and a bunny hop. One thing to mention about bunny hops, which I didn't, is that your speed drops off a little bit each time you bunny hop. But this is lessened a lot if you're playing on high frame rate, just because the game updates more every frame. Yeah.
It's worth mentioning as well, climbing those ropes is quite slow, so whenever we can help it, we want to avoid them. Also, as well, whenever we're forced to climb on a rope, you actually use D-pad movement instead of analog, because it saves time. Cool game.
Mm-hmm. It's just the analog movement is, for whatever reason, slower than like keyboard movement, and I bound my D-pad to arrow keys just for get benefit of that.
Yeah.
So this is Sunsetter. It's pretty much a ground pound, but you can jump out of it like a spring. You also get the added ability of being able to kind of like backflip once in the air and get some height, which we'll be able to use in a couple different spots, mainly to reset our wall run, so we can just wall run quickly twice in the same kind of wall, without having to waste time and do it in a different way, like that. And that gets us enough height to get there.
Yeah. You can already see in like 8 minutes of playing, our moveset has already expanded like drastically. Quite a different game. Then really cool strat coming up here.
Oh, that was too low.
Yeah.
It's actually.
Just run it back, honestly. Grab the sword.
Unfortunately, you
okay.
can't,
Yeah.
because it sets your hazard respawn, which is exactly why that this strat saves so much, but it's not too big of a deal. But it would have been a cool one to show off. But essentially what I was meant to do was you hit the key while kicking the nail in the air, which ends up hitting the switch behind it, because it like locks onto enemies, and so it just conveniently locks onto the switch as well.
Yeah, you just basically kick the nail through a wall. Very cool.
And then you hazard respawn above. But yeah, it's not too big of a deal. And now we have our first key. This one is for keep.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, the keys are like varying degrees of well hidden. Like this one you have to kind of work for, you have to like hit some levers and stuff. There's another one that's just like out in the open, and then another one that is just like, yeah, you found a final boss area, like here's a key, basically. It's very silly. And normally we'd be doing this section without a nail, and we'd have to heal at the checkpoint real quick.
Made it back to Underbelly, this time not for a power-up, just to get the key from here. And that will pretty much be the aim of the game for a little bit, till we get to the final boss fight, which is what the keys unlock. So right there I did I did a coyote bunny hop there, which essentially is with ultra hops, they lose momentum bit by bit if you don't do the inputs like as well. But if you do it off of coyote frames, the jump input itself, you're able to maintain the full momentum that you get from it, which can be useful in times like these when you absolutely need that full momentum. And we'll just death warp here to get back to the start, which I did unintentionally as dying.
Yeah. This is a decent spot for any donations or shoutouts. It's kind of backtracking here.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I would just like to take a moment to shout out, we do have a bonus incentive open at the minute, and that is, you can see for $200 we'll add the Boomer Mode 3v3 match into the Rocket League showcase. So if that's met, then the Rocket League crew will play an extra 3v3 game with settings changed to make the ball travel very quickly and chaotically. I'm sure many people remember that Rocket League was absolutely a fan favourite at last year's Archiethon. So if we can get that met to showcase even more Rocket League, that would be really fantastic.
Yeah, we gotta get that one.
Right after this run, and we have until the end of Rocket League to meet that, I do believe. So yeah, let's get some donations in for that.
Yeah, and last year after Archiethon, we ran a poll asking people what their favorite run of last year was, and it was almost like unanimously Rocket League. So definitely watch it and definitely donate.
So now we got a strike break. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
I was just going to say, and as well, it's kind of inspired many sort of similarly formatted stuff this year. Like we had the Osu showcase already, and we've got Counter-Strike tomorrow.
Oh,
and similar
yeah.
And anyway, we just got basically the Great Nail from Hollow Knight. We can break green walls with it. It's really not that big of a deal. Like
It's
kind of
not
like
really
nail art.
useful. Yeah, it's not useful until the final fight. That's
Yeah.
pretty much the only place that it gets used, and just to break any green walls, which are like 3 of them in the run. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. We're heading to the theater section now. Have to do some tricky movement first. I really need. You get on the door frame there just to get a bit extra height.
Yeah, usually you have to climb the wall a bunch with a bunch of wall runs, but skip all of that. Saves, I don't know, probably like 5-6 seconds.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
And this is probably the most significant part of the run. Out of bounds versus no out of bounds. You can kind of clip through these levers, or clip to get to these levers that we have to go through the intended way. First of all, we have to get a power up, but in any percent, you just kind of jump in a corridor, go through a fence, and you can get the key really fast here. And now we have gun.
Gun. It's our range attack, which is pretty much our last power-up, and we'll use it only really to get past this one section, which is like mandatory to use it in. Otherwise, it's pretty bad to use it for anything other than that, because it uses some of our power, which obviously we want to maintain it at 3 health or 3 bars as much as possible, because we want to have as much DPS as possible for the fight.
Yeah, basically shooting a sonic boom like drains you a thing of soul, so it's like you lose indignation and you break walls slower. It's just bad.
Yeah, right there we are on 2 bars of health now, because or 2 bars of soul, because we had to use it to hit the switch. And I have to use another one here. Another coyote ultra hop there. It's pretty funny where I have to do it in first person. You don't have to, but it's a lot easier and you don't get a crosshair, so you know.
Yeah, there's no cross. I was watching him in practice and he missed it twice. It was
pretty annoying.
Yeah.
But usually it's pretty consistent. Why? Does that happen in practice as well?
It did.
It's pretty much my camera angle is fucked, but I'll just do that.
Yeah, it's all good.
Essentially what we're doing here is getting 3 key levers switches to be able to get the key in the middle, which will be our 4th key.
If I could just quickly come in, we've got a $50 donation from Blue saying, "You don't have to be a boomer to make sure boomer mode happens. Can we get a $5 boomer train? Anyone?" Thank you so much for that very generous donation, and it has indeed gone towards the Boomer Mode 3v3, as we can see on the tracker at the bottom of the stream there. So yeah, let's get that Boomer train going and see if we can get that incentive net by the end of the Rocket League showcase. Thank you.
Shouts to all my boomers in chat right now. Yeah, from here we're basically kind of cleaning up. We're heading into the endgame section.
Getting into Empty Bailey once again.
Yep.
Which is where the last key will be housed.
Yeah.
Just some neat movement here to get a large portion of this section. Oh, actually, no, I forgot. We got our last power up here. Solar Wind.
Oh yeah, Solar Wind. Yeah, this is something casual you probably use a ton, but in the speedrun, like Ultra Hops are just kind of better. Like
it's pretty much the intended main movement tech, but Glide Hops are just better because they're just more versatile essentially. But unfortunately, we do have to get it towards the end.
Oh, and some funky movement coming up here. This is basically neutrals and Solast, but yeah, nice. And then another key, again, this key is just kind of sitting there. Like the other keys, we had to do some like convoluted stuff, you had to open some switches. This one, it's just like, yeah, just have it. Who cares?
the way those neutrals work is essentially the wall kicks send you away from where you're kicking from, and I think it calculates it from where you initially kick into. So if you kick away from the wall and then move into the wall during that kick animation, it like sends you back into the wall and you get the height from that.
Yeah.
Quick little save just before the boss fight. And just coming up, we're doing some interesting, like, it'll look weird, but essentially we can conserve our height doing that, which you usually won't be able to do using the kicks and the slashes.
Yeah, there's some really interesting, like, minor movement things like that in this game.
There's a lot of very niche movement stuff here. Very cool game.
Yeah. And then we're coming up into the final boss. Pretty random and frustrating. You can talk about the DPS loop a little bit about it.
Yeah, so what I'll do in a second, if you remember the Soul Cutter, which is the range attack, it consumes your bar. So ideally you want to be able to not do that, but because it's on the same like attack as your charge attack, you want to like do it on top of her, so it doesn't hit the ranged attack. And
Yeah, pretty much
that way you'll be able to keep your bar. Yeah.
Yep. Just purposely whipping it above her so that the Great Slash connects, but not that. I'm just calling it Great Slash because that's Hollow Knight. Everyone knows Hollow Knight.
Lots of similarities, I don't blame you. Music is also pretty good here, as it is with most of the game, like, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, very random fight. Generally, if she's in the air, you're really unhappy.
Really frustrating if she's in that.
It's going pretty well, though. Oh, and then that happened.
And then that happened. Pretty much, if some of the attacks do more than 1 bar of damage. That one in particular does quite a bit. You just have to not jump early, but it's not too big of a deal. You just spawn back in the beginning. If this was any percent, it would be a lot more bad, a lot worse, because you don't have strike break, so the fight is a lot slower.
Oh, and you can, those projectiles she shoots out, you can reflect them into her for a bit of damage too, no?
They don't do as much damage as your nail, so ideally you kind of don't want to use it as much as possible, but you know, sometimes you just unavoidable.
Oh man. She knocked away your nail too, yeah. So terrible.
That'll do that if you get hit by one of the charge attacks.
What? Huh?
She does that if she gets blocked behind the wall there as well, if she's in that attack. There's a lot of really annoying RNG that you can get. There we go.
There it is.
That's time. Got there in the end.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, that's a pretty accurate representation of the game, though.
Yeah, it's just
brutal.
It's like all movement until the very end, and then you just have to hope for good RNG. But here's the last little bit of lore in the run, if you want to have a read. Yeah, I still don't know what the lore of this game is, but it's like you're in a dream and the princess is relevant in some way, and that was lore accurate. Go bunny cat lady if you're ever curious. She is a goat bunny cat lady. So that is what it is.
Nice.
And
Well,
that's the run.
GG's.
Pseudoregalia.
Yeah. We have
Cool
had
game, you
another
should-
$5 donation come in from Salix saying choo choo all aboard the boomer train. Thank you so much for that. And
Thank
yeah,
yourself.
Amber, bye bye. If either of you have anything else you want to shout out or anything you want to sign off with, yeah, go for it.
Not many, just I want to shout out the CS2 match that's going on tomorrow. That will be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that a lot.
As the kids
Content
might say.
overload.
Yeah.
And speaking of content, hope everyone enjoys the Rocket League after this run. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all from me.
And all I'll say is a very cool game. I just kind of bought it on a whim. You can pretty much beat it in one sitting, and it's well worth it, I think. It's very cool.
Yeah,
pick it
and
up.
in the latest patch, it's got like time trials that you can do for every map, and just like lots of outfits that you can get for Sybil and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us. I'll see you guys in a bit for Pet to Pup. You gotta check that out. It's insanity every year. So, peace out.
Cool. Bye bye.